The Seneca Falls Convention of 1848. The Seneca Falls Convention was a gathering during the mid 1800s in America for women's rights. The Seneca Falls Convention was held in Seneca Falls, New York, and was the first ever women's convention, which kicked off women's rights within America and was led by this G, Elizabeth Cady Stanton. To give some background, women in the 1800s had pretty much no rights compared to today's standards, because women in the 1800s were not able to vote, own property, or have control of their own income. On top of that, women and children were constantly abused due to the outrageous amounts of alcohol that were consumed during the rise of America, making women all over the country furious. However, it all changed at the first Seneca Falls Convention on July 19th, 1848. Over 300 people were in attendance, and mostly women, but a few men too, most notably historic figure Frederick Douglass. Douglass was a previous slave and now abolitionist. The gathering was to discuss women's rights in America for the future and created the Declaration of Sentiments.
All right, little change of pace today. I'm going without a face cam, but it's all good. I'm sure Evan touched up already on the Declaration of Sentiments, but I'm going to be talking about the Declaration of Sentiments and why it was revolutionary for the battle in women's equality. Some key figures are Lucretia Mott, Martha C. Wright, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Mary Ann McClintock. The Declaration of Sentiments was written by Stanton and read by her at the Women's Rights Convention held on July 19th and 20th, 1848 in Seneca Falls, New York. The Declaration of Sentiments asserts the equality of all men and women, asserting their unalienable rights to life, liberty, and happiness. It argues that women are oppressed by the government and patriarchal society, and with 16 facts illustrating the extent of this oppression, the document insists that women should be viewed as full citizens with equal rights and privileges to men. The Seneca Falls Convention read the Declaration on July 20th, and 12 resolutions related to women's rights were passed. The only resolution not unanimously passed was for women's suffrage, as some were concerned that it would hurt their efforts for equality in other areas. 68 women and 32 men, including abolitionist Frederick Douglass, signed the Declaration, but many withdrew their names due to ridicule and criticism. Some of the main complaints I'm going to touch up on here were that women were not allowed to vote. They were excluded from every level of government. Men controlled the majority of profitable employments, preventing women from access to respectable, well-paid jobs in law, medicine, and the ministry. Single property owning women had to pay taxes to a government that did not consider them citizens. And similarly, women had to obey the nation's laws, though they had no voice in making them. When you think about that, you have to do as they say and pay them when you aren't even considered a citizen to have the same rights and the same freedoms as everyone else in it, which is just terrible. A different code of morals dictated male and female behavior with higher standards demanded of women over men. And women could not attend college as men were doing. All colleges were closed to them. Wives could not claim wages. They earned property or they brought into marriage. All their possessions would now belong to their husbands. The Seneca Falls Convention and the Declaration of Sentiments was revolutionary for women's rights in many ways, as it was basically the first of its kind. It was the first group of women to speak out against this, not hatred, but this disrespect and disregard for women and their rights and the lack of acknowledgement of how they feel and just what they have to say. And it set off a chain reaction, and it has led all the way down to feminist movements today. I know Evan already showed this image, but I just wanted to point out and underline the people that I mentioned earlier. And here you can see the 60-some ladies and 30-some men. And in this next photo is another image of the convention, a different one than Evan showed. And talking is actually Mary Ann Stanton, and she is obviously reading the Declaration of Sentiments out to the people, and I assume the other ladies that I mentioned are the ones in the red and the green and here. And the folks, mainly women in the audience, as you can tell, because obviously they were most interested in this cause, and it was the Women's Convention. And yeah. And here we have an image. I do not know who these women are, but they are protesting. As you can see on this sign right here, Mr. President, how long must women wait for liberty? These women protesting out front of the White House, obviously feeling very strongly for this, just shows how much support this movement really had.